The night I left my husband, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I pressed my palm against the front door of our too-quiet house, feeling the polish would thrum with the silence of 1,000 lies. And then I smiled. Because after a year and a half of praying for a miracle, I finally realized I was the miracle he'd underestimated. He buried me alive in his deception. Now, I was the earthquake. My name is Danielle Carter. I'm 30 years old. The air in our Houston church the day I met Jonathan Montgomery smelled like hope and lemon polish. He stood at the pulpit leading youth worship, sunlight catching the sweat on his brow as his voice, rich, earnest, filled the vaulted ceiling. "The truth shall set you free," he declared, locking eyes with me in the third pew. I felt seen. Chosen. For a girl raised where God-fearing man trumped chemistry degrees or travel dreams, Jonathan felt like divine validation. Our courtship was a masterclass in performative holiness. Picnics in crowded parks. Bible studies in his parents' sunroom. Coffee dates with chaperones. When he'd cup my hand to pray, his touch was warm, but fleeting. "Patience, Danielle," he'd murmur, eyes lowered. "A pure heart is worth waiting for." I mistook restraint for reverence. November 12, 2023. White roses. A lace gown tied around my ribs. Jonathan's smile as I walked the aisle didn't reach his eyes, something I'd later replay in 4K clarity. Our vows echoed in the chapel, forsaking all others. His voice cracked. I thought it was emotion. The hotel suite door clicked shut. Silence. No kiss. No, "you're beautiful." Just the rustle of his suit jacket hitting a chair. "Long day," he mumbled, vanishing into the bathroom. An hour later, I lay stiff in the king bed, listening to his steady, detached breathing from the sofa. My wedding ring felt like a shackle. Days bled into weeks. My touches, a hand on his arm, a kiss on his cheek, were met with flinches or frosty sighs. "Not now, Danielle. I'm spiritually burdened." One night, desperate, I wore the silk negligee my sister gifted me. He recoiled like I'd pulled a knife. "Is this all you think about?" he'd roared, slamming the bedroom door so hard a picture frame shattered. The shards cut my bare feet as I cleaned it up. His family called me high-strung. His mother patted my hand, "Men show love differently, dear." When I begged Jonathan to see a doctor, he spun it into a sermon at breakfast. "You're letting the enemy distort your mind, Danielle. Where's your faith?" I started swallowing Advil like candy, my prayers reduced to choked whispers. "God, make me enough." I found them in April 2024, tucked behind his monogrammed socks. Silver foil wrappers. Extra strength male enhancement. Not prescription. Store-bought. Hidden. My hands shook holding one. Why hide these, if he wasn't using them, with someone else? His phone glowed in the dark bathroom at 2 a.m. He'd left it charging. The glow illuminated my face as I scrolled. Text threads. "Miss you in that blue shirt. Take it off slow for me again?" Mark. 3:14 a.m. Tuesday. Wedding pics looked convincing. She buys it? Alex. November 10th, 2023. 2 days before our vows. Photos, shirtless gym selfies sent to a user named HoustonHunk23. Jonathan, my Jonathan, winking at the camera in our bathroom mirror. My towel on the rack behind him. I didn't cry. I dry heaved over the toilet, phone gripped so tight the edges dug into my palm. The screenshots felt like collecting evidence from my own murder scene. I showed him the next morning. His face went sheet white, then fury red. Satan planted those. You're jealous. Possessed. He grabbed my wrist. First time he'd ever touched me with force. When I told his Uncle Robert, a deacon, he sighed. Danielle, all men struggle. Pray he overcomes this phase. Our pastor offered couples counseling after I completed a 40-day fast for sexual purity. It was the church potluck that broke me. Jonathan laughing with the youth group, arms slung around a teenage boy's shoulders, playing the saint. I watched a mother hand him her baby to bless. His fingers brushed the infant's head. The same fingers that typed "I love tasting you" to Alex hours earlier. Righteous fury, cold and clear, flooded my veins. Prayer hadn't worked. Now, it was time for fire. Revenge wasn't rage. It was architecture. I created an encrypted cloud folder, Project Jericho. Every screenshot. Every hotel confirmation, I found emails. Every discarded pill wrapper, I photographed them beside our wedding invitation. I even accessed his old medical files online: diagnosis, psychogenic erectile dysfunction. Patient cites religious guilt. Hypocrite. I wrote a 3-page letter. Not hysterical. Forensic. To whom it may concern, enclosed as evidence, Jonathan Montgomery used our marriage as a fraudulent shield for his double life. This isn't about sin. It's about calculated deception, emotional abuse, and the exploitation of faith. I was not his wife. I was his camouflage. I signed it, Danielle Carter, the woman who refused to disappear. My distribution list was surgical. His parents, siblings, and sanctimonious Uncle Robert. Pastor Michaels and the entire elder board. The director of youth ministries. His best friend, Chad, who'd called me dramatic. The HR department at his Christian school. I waited for his men's retreat weekend. Packed only what mattered: my diplomas, grandma's pearls, my dog Samson. Left my wedding ring on his pillow. Placed the glossy black folder, Jonathan's truth printed in gold, centered on our bed. I didn't look back at the house. I breathed in the humid Houston air, free from lemon polish and lies. As I drove away, I rolled down every window and screamed until my throat burned. Then I laughed. For the first time in 18 months, I felt clean. Jonathan didn't crumble quietly. He denied everything. Called the folder photoshopped lies. Pastor Michaels initially defended him: Brother Jonathan is under spiritual attack. But seeds of doubt grew. Parents avoided him. Youth kids whispered. He fled Houston. Leased an apartment 200 miles away in Austin under his college buddy's name. Thought distance meant safety. Thought shadows could hide him. He forgot, I built the shadows he hid in. 1 month later, my GPS chirped, arrived. I killed the engine outside the Oaks Apartments, a beige complex smelling of fake lemon cleaner and anonymity. Unit 214. His Jeep sat in spot B7. Gotcha. In my passenger seat. A box of 100 identical black folders. A stack of our wedding photos, him grinning, me wide-eyed with hope. I didn't just mail them. I delivered. Personally. I slipped into the complex behind a delivery driver. Down sterile hallways. My heartbeat thrums in my ears. Unit 214. I press my ear to the door. Blaring sports commentary. A beer can cracking open. He feels safe here. Anonymous. I work fast. 5 folders slid under his door. 10 folders stacked neatly by his welcome mat. 1 folder taped to his Jeep windshield. On every cover, a wedding photo with the words, "Truth hurts, doesn't it, Jonathan?" scrawled in red Sharpie. I press his doorbell. Once. Hard. Sharp. Authoritative. Silence. Then. Thud. A chair scraping. Muffled cursing. Footsteps. Heavy. Angry. Racing toward the door. I don't run. I step sideways into the alcove beside his apartment, a sliver of darkness between Unit 214 and 216. Pressed flat against cold stucco, I hear his deadbolt clack. The doorknob turns. Hinges creak as the door swings wide. Light floods the hallway, inches from my hiding spot. I hold my breath. His shadow stretches long and distorted across the concrete floor. Light from Jonathan's apartment slashes across the hallway floor, his shadow stretching like a dark blade toward my hiding spot. I press deeper into the alcove's cold stucco, heart slamming against my ribs. Don't breathe. Don't blink. He steps onto the threshold. Barefoot. Wearing gray sweatpants and a faded college tee. His eyes scan the empty corridor first, left, then right, before dropping to the stack of folders at his feet. I watch his face. Confusion. Then recognition. Then raw, animal panic. He snatches the top folder, ripping it open. Our wedding photo stares back, his smile, my naive eyes, the words "Truth hurts, doesn't it, Jonathan?" bleeding red across the image. His knuckles whiten. A guttural sound escapes him, half snarl, half whimper. "Danielle?" His voice is shredded glass. "I know you're here." He lunges into the hallway, wild-eyed, clutching the folder like a weapon. "You psychotic bitch. You ruin my life then stalk me?" Spittle flies from his lips. He kicks the stack of folders. They explode like shrapnel, pages scattering, wedding photos skittering across the concrete. A door cracks open across the hall. An elderly man peers out, robe clutched tight. "Everything all right, son?" Jonathan whirls on him, shaking the folder. "My ex-wife is harassing me. She's unstable. Call the..." He freezes. His eyes lock onto the single folder taped to his Jeep's windshield, visible through the hallway window. The blood drains from his face. That's when I step out of the shadows. "Unstable?" My voice echoes, calm and clear. I'm not the one who married a woman to hide an affair with Mark. Or Alex. Or... I glance at the scattered pages. Who was Tuesday's 3 a.m. booty call, Jonathan? Houston Hunk 23? The neighbor's eyes widen. He shuts his door quietly. Jonathan charges. He grabs my arm, fingers digging into bone. "You think you've won? You're dead. Do you hear me? Dead." His breath reeks of cheap beer and rage. I don't flinch. I lean in, whispering, "Check your email." His grip loosens, just a fraction. Confusion flickers. "Pastor Michaels just forwarded something to the entire congregation," I continue, ice in my veins. Subject line, "A shepherd's heavy heart." Want to guess what's attached? He stumbles back, fumbling for his phone in his pocket. He drops it. The screen shatters as it hits the concrete. He scrambles to pick it up, thumbs trembling as he taps. I already know what he's seeing. The forwarded email from Pastor Michaels. "Beloved flock, it is with profound grief we share evidence of Jonathan Montgomery's grievous deception. My entire Project Jericho folder attached for 700+ prayer warriors. HR's auto-reply confirming his termination from the Christian school, effective immediately, violation of morality clause. Jonathan makes a sound I've never heard, a wounded, strangled cry. He sinks against the wall, phone slipping from his hands. Why? He stares at me, eyes hollow. I gave you a home. Respectability. You gave me a prison, I say. And I burned it down. I turn to leave. It's over. But he isn't finished. You forgot one thing, Danielle. His voice is suddenly chillingly quiet. I stop. He pushes off the wall, a twisted smile on his lips. You were so busy playing detective, you never wondered why I picked you. A cold finger traces my spine. Don't engage. Walk away. It wasn't just because you were naive, he hisses, stepping closer. Or because your daddy donated to the building fund. He picks up a torn wedding photo, the one where I'm beaming, oblivious. He taps my face. It was because of her. Her? The word slips out. Claire. His smile turns venomous. Your cousin. The one who ran away to Chicago after high school? Ice floods my stomach. Claire. My vibrant, rebellious cousin who vanished 10 years ago. The family shame we never discussed. She didn't run, Danielle. Jonathan's eyes glitter with malice. My father paid her off. $30,000. After she told him she was pregnant. The hallway tilts. No. He's lying. Another trick. My holy deacon daddy, Jonathan spits. Screwing an 18-year-old behind the baptismal font. Sound familiar? Memories crash over me. Claire sobbing in my bedroom weeks before she left. They'll never believe me, Danny, he's a deacon. Uncle Robert, Jonathan's father, pulling her aside at family picnics, face stern. Daddy made the problem disappear, Jonathan whispers. But he knew Claire might talk one day. So when I needed a wife. He gestures at me. Who better than her cousin? The one whose family would protect mine to bury their own shame? The truth hits like a physical blow. I wasn't just camouflage. I was collateral. Jonathan sees the devastation on my face. He laughs, a low, ugly sound. Run back to Daddy, Danielle. Ask him why he really pushed me to marry you. Ask him what he promised Uncle Robert to keep Claire's little problem quiet. My fists clench. The urge to slam his head into the stucco is a living thing. Suddenly, sirens wail in the distance. Close. Getting closer. Jonathan's smile vanishes. Panic returns. You called the cops? No, I say softly. I nod toward his shattered phone. But your neighbor did. Red and blue lights flash through the hallway windows, painting the scattered evidence in hellish colors. Jonathan swears, backing toward his apartment. This isn't over, he snarls. I know where your parents live. I know where you sleep. The elevator dings down the hall. Voices. Heavy footsteps. Jonathan ducks inside his apartment. The door slams. The deadbolt clicks. I stand alone in the chaos, surrounded by the ruins of his lies and the bomb he just dropped on my past. A uniformed officer rounds the corner, hand on his holster. Ma'am? We got a disturbance call. You all right? I open my mouth to answer. Crack. The sound comes from Jonathan's apartment. Sharp. Final. Like a single gunshot. The officer shoves past me, radio crackling, shots fired. Unit 214. He kicks the door. Once. Twice. Wood splinters. The door flies open. I catch a glimpse inside. Jonathan on his knees beside the couch. No gun. No blood. Just his fist clenched around a small, black USB drive, smashed into pieces on the floor. He looks up as the officer tackles him. Our eyes lock across the room. Jonathan mouths two words, vicious and clear. Checkmate, bitch. The officer cuffs him. Jonathan doesn't resist. He just keeps staring at me, that awful smile creeping back. Another officer approaches me. Ma'am, did he threaten you? What was that sound? I can't speak. My eyes fix on the shattered USB drive. What was on it? Evidence against his father? Proof about Claire? Or something on me? Jonathan is dragged past me toward the elevator. As the doors close, he calls out, loud enough for everyone to hear. Tell Claire her son turns 10 next month. He looks just like my dad. Jonathan's scream, he looks just like my dad, echoed in the sterile Austin hallway long after the elevator doors swallowed him. The cops swarmed me. Questions fired like bullets. Who's Claire? Is there a child? Did he assault you? I said nothing. Let my lawyer's card speak. The USB drive's plastic shards ground under my boot as I walked out. Back in Houston, I didn't go home. I drove to the only place Jonathan couldn't poison, my grandmother's crumbling farmhouse outside Conroe. No Wi-Fi. No family photos. Just the scent of hay and desperation. I slept 14 hours. Woke to 47 missed calls. Ignored them all except one, Detective Ruiz. Jonathan's charged with threatening you and evidence tampering. Bond set at $50,000. A pause. He's screaming about Claire Montgomery. That name mean anything? Montgomery. Jonathan's last name. Not Claire's. He'd claimed the child as his. It means he's lying, I rasped. Again. My parents arrived unannounced. Dad's eyes were red-rimmed, Mom clutched a casserole like a shield. Danielle, baby, Dad breathed, reaching for me. I stepped back. Did you know? Silence. The farmhouse clock ticked like a bomb. Know what? Mom whispered. About Claire. About Uncle Robert. About the money. Dad crumpled onto Grandma's floral sofa. Robert came to me, after Claire left. Said she'd accused him of inappropriate contact. That she wanted cash to disappear. He covered his face. I gave him $15,000 from your college fund. To protect the family. To protect you. The room spun. My money paid for Claire's silence. My future funded their filth. And when Jonathan needed a beard, my voice was deadly calm. You pushed me at him. To keep Robert quiet. To bury Claire for good. Mom sobbed. We thought Jonathan was different. We thought you'd be happy. You sold me. The scream tore from my throat. To a liar. To a monster. I threw them out. Watched their Cadillac vanish down the dirt road. The betrayal wasn't just Jonathan's. It was in my DNA. I hired a PI. Gave her Claire's last known details. Vanished, June 2015, age 18. Last call, from a Chicago bus station. Betrayal, dead ends. One more thing, I said, sliding a Ziploc bag across the table. Inside, a strand of Jonathan's hair, plucked from his pillow months ago. If she has a son, test him against this. 3 days later, my burner phone buzzed. Unknown number. Danielle? The voice was raspy. Cigarettes and exhaustion. Claire. We met at a truck stop outside Dallas. She looked decades older, hollow cheeks, eyes like fractured glass. A boy sat beside her in the booth, drawing monsters on a napkin. Jesse. 9 years old. He looks like Robert, I whispered. Claire flinched. Every damn day. Her story spilled like acid. Robert grooming her after youth group, God's special daughter. The pregnancy, he drove me to a clinic, made me take the test alone. The payoff, $30,000 in cash. Told me if I ever talked, he'd say I seduced him. Jonathan finding her last year, threatened to take Jesse if I didn't stay hidden. Jonathan? I choked. Why? Power, Claire spat. Robert's retiring. Jonathan's taking over as head deacon. He couldn't risk me talking, or Jesse inheriting Robert's estate. Jonathan hadn't just used me. He'd stolen Claire's child to steal a church. I have proof, Claire said, sliding a battered journal across the table. Inside, dates, locations, Robert's whispered threats, and a photo. Robert, sweaty and disheveled, passed out on Claire's childhood bed. Took it right after, as insurance. The USB Jonathan smashed? I asked. Claire frowned. What USB? I gave Jonathan a copy of this journal last year when he threatened Jesse. He laughed. Said he'd burn it. Ice flooded my veins. Jonathan hadn't destroyed evidence. He'd destroyed something else. The paternity test came back. Probability of Jonathan being Jesse's father, 0%. Probability of Robert being Jesse's father, 99.98%. Armed with Claire's journal, I went nuclear. Sent the paternity results plus journal scans to Robert's church, law firm, and golf club. Filed a police report for Claire's assault. Leaked everything to the Houston Chronicle's religion reporter. Robert resigned as deacon, health reasons. The church dissolved Jonathan's ministry license. Hashtag Montgomery Sins trended on Twitter. Jonathan called me from jail. You think you've won? His voice was eerily serene. You just killed Claire. What? That USB I smashed? It wasn't the journal copy. It was a fail-safe. He paused, savoring my silence. If anything happened to me, instructions released to a friend. Someone who hates Claire almost as much as I do. Who? Remember Alex? My Houston hunk 23? Jonathan chuckled. Turns out, he's Claire's ex-boyfriend. The one who introduced her to my dad. He blamed her when Robert cut him off. Hates her, and that bastard kid. My blood turned to slush. Alex knew where Claire was hiding. I texted him an hour ago, Jonathan whispered. One word, go. I hung up. Called Claire. No answer. The reckoning. I drove back to Austin. Not for Jonathan. For Alex. His address was easy to find, a luxury loft downtown. I waited in the parking garage, hidden behind a concrete pillar. Midnight. His black Tesla glided in. Alex stepped out. Arrogant smirk. Designer jeans. He never saw me move. I jammed my taser into his ribs. He convulsed. Collapsed. I knelt beside him, pressing the prongs to his throat. "Where's Claire?" he gasped. "Who the F?" he screamed. "Jonathan texted you go," I hissed. "Go where?" "The cabin," he sobbed. "Near Broken Bow Lake." "Jonathan paid me to scare her." "Scare her how?" "Just mess with her head. Trash the place." "I didn't touch the kid, I swear." I believed him. Alex was a coward. But Jonathan? Jonathan didn't send cowards. I zip-tied Alex's ankles. Called 911. Man threatening to jump from his loft. Send help. Then I raced north toward Broken Bow. 3:47 a.m. Pine trees clawed at the moon. Claire's borrowed Honda sat parked crookedly at the cabin, driver's door open. Empty. Inside. Furniture overturned. Jesse's stuffed dinosaur ripped apart. No blood. "Claire!" I screamed into the woods. Silence. Then, a whimper. I followed it to a rusted shed. Jesse huddled inside, trembling, clutching a pink flip phone. "Aunt Danny?" He lunged into my arms. "He took Mommy." "Who, baby?" "The man with the snake eyes." Snake eyes. Jonathan's tattoo, a coiled viper on his inner wrist. He said. Jesse hiccuped. Mommy had to come with him to fix the church. Or he'd drown me in the lake. Jonathan was out on bail. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A photo loaded. Claire. Duct tape over her mouth. Chained to a pipe in a dim, concrete room. The text beneath it. "She's where it began, Danielle. Come alone." Or the baptismal font gets a refill. J. I knew exactly where it began. The church basement. I sped toward Houston, Jesse asleep in the back. Praying I wasn't too late. The old steeple loomed against the dawn sky. I parked blocks away. Crept through the cemetery. The basement entrance, a rusted metal door, was unlocked. I slipped inside. Dank air. The smell of mildew and sin. "Claire?" I whispered. A low moan echoed ahead. I followed it past stacks of moldy hymnals. Turned the corner. And froze. Claire slumped against the baptismal font, wrists cuffed to its drainpipe. Alive. Bruised. But Jonathan wasn't alone. Robert Montgomery stood beside him. Jonathan held a pistol loosely at his side. Robert clutched a leather-bound ledger, the church's secret financial records. "Took you long enough," Jonathan smiled. Dad was just confessing how he embezzled $2 million to pay off Claire and buy my silence. Robert's face was ashen. "She made me, Danny." "She tempted." Robert jerked. A red bloom spread across his white shirt. He collapsed. Jonathan lowered the smoking gun. "Oops. Accident." He kicked his father's body. "Now it's just us three girls." He aimed the gun at Claire's head. "Drop your bag, Danielle. And your phone." I obeyed. "Good. Now." He nudged Robert's ledger toward me with his foot. "Sign it. Transfer every cent of Dad's stolen millions to me. Or Claire dies here in the holy water." "And if I sign?" "You and Claire walk. Jesse too." I disappear. He grinned. I'll even leave you the gun to stage this, righteous justice. Lies. He'd never let us live. I picked up the ledger. Flipped pages. Stalled. Where's the pen? Jonathan sighed, reaching into his pocket. I lunged. Not for the gun. For the baptismal faucet. I wrenched it open. Icy water gushed into the font, swirling around Claire's waist. What are you? Jonathan screamed. Claire! Hold your breath. I yelled. She sucked in air, just as I slammed my palm on the drain release lever. The font's bottom dropped open. Claire plunged into the dark, watery chute below, cuffs still chaining her to the pipe as she fell. Jonathan roared, firing wildly. Bullets sparked off the font's copper edge. I dove behind a pillar. Water soaked the floor. She's dead. Jonathan raged. That drain goes straight to the sewer main. Wrong, I panted. It goes to the old storm tunnel, where Claire and I played as kids. His eyes went wide with understanding. A metallic snap echoed from the drain. Claire's hand emerged from the hole. She held a rusted iron pipe, broken off from below, and swung it like a bat. It connected with Jonathan's knee. He shrieked, collapsing. The gun skittered away. Claire hauled herself out, dripping and furious. Get the gun, Danny! I scrambled for it. Jonathan grabbed my ankle. He yanked hard. I fell. The gun slid farther away. Claire raised the pipe again. Freeze! Police! Bright lights flooded the basement. Armed officers surged down the stairs. Detective Ruiz stepped forward. Jonathan Montgomery, you're under arrest for kidnapping, attempted murder, and the assault of Claire Evans. And you, Ms. Carter. He eyed the flooded basement, Claire's chains, Robert's body. You've got some explaining to do. Jonathan was dragged away, howling about ledgers and sewers. Paramedics took Claire. Ruiz pulled me aside. We tracked Claire's flip phone. Jesse called 911. Is he safe with CPS? He studied me. Why'd you come alone? You almost died. I didn't come alone, I whispered. His brow furrowed. The ledger. I'd slipped it into my waistband before lunging for the faucet. Ruiz hadn't seen it. Robert's secrets were still in my hands. As they led me out, I glanced back at the baptismal font, water swirling pink with Robert's blood. Jonathan thought he'd trapped me. Claire thought we'd won. Ruiz thought he had the truth. They were all wrong. Back at the station, Ruiz handed me my bag. Sign your statement. Then you're free to go. I unzipped the bag. Reached for my pen. And froze. Tucked between my wallet and keys was a small, unmarked envelope. Inside, a photo of Jesse sleeping in my backseat during the drive to the church. A USB drive identical to the one Jonathan smashed. A note. Sign the ledger over to me by midnight. Or Jesse sleeps with the Gators. You don't know my reach, Danielle. J. My blood turned to ice. Jonathan had an accomplice. Someone who'd been in my car. Someone who knew where Jesse was. And as I stared at the photo, I noticed the horrifying detail I'd missed. Jesse's stuffed dinosaur, ripped apart at the cabin, was tucked beside him. Whole. The photo of Jesse sleeping in my back seat, his repaired dinosaur tucked beside him, felt like a physical blow. Jonathan's note burned in my palm. Sign the ledger over to me by midnight. Or Jesse sleeps with the Gators. Detective Ruiz watched me, sharp eyes missing nothing. Problem, Ms. Carter? I shoved the envelope deep into my bag. Just exhausted. He leaned forward, voice low. We found Robert Montgomery's will. Left everything to Jonathan. $4 million estate. Church pensions. Real estate. He paused. But the ledger you didn't give me? It shows Robert embezzled $2 million before he died. Money Jonathan now inherits, unless it's proven stolen. Meaning, if I expose the ledger, Jonathan gets nothing. Prison and poverty. Ruiz slid his card across the table. If anything, surfaces, call me. Don't play hero. I had no intention of playing hero. I was playing executioner. Back at my rented apartment, I spread the ledger's pages. Robert's meticulous handwriting detailed it all. $500,000 to Claire's hush fund via offshore accounts. $750,000 to silence a former church secretary, sexual harassment. $250,000 to Jonathan's ministry expenses, Grindr subscriptions, hotel rooms. $500,000 funneled to E.M. Evelyn Montgomery. Jonathan's mother. Evelyn. The pious matriarch who'd called me hysterical. Who'd hosted prayer circles while her husband preyed on children. Who'd repaired Jesse's dinosaur after Alex trashed the cabin, a twisted grandmotherly gesture masking her complicity. She was Jonathan's accomplice. The one who'd planted the envelope. I knew what she wanted, the ledger. To protect her cut. To fund Jonathan's defense. To bury Robert's sins and keep her stained glass reputation. So I gave it to her. First, I scanned the ledger. Edited the final page. I, Danielle Carter, irrevocably transfer all rights to the funds herein to Evelyn Montgomery. Forged Robert's notary stamp. Emailed it to Jonathan's lawyer, CC, Evelyn. Then, I texted Evelyn's burner number, traced from the flip phone's call log. Bring Jesse to the old church basement. 10 p.m. Come alone. Ledger for the boy. Try anything, I burn it. The basement stank of bleach and decay. Police tape still cordoned off the baptismal font, now drained, its copper stained dark with Robert's blood. I hid Claire's journal, the original, inside a hollowed-out hymnal. Set my phone to record. Taped it behind a rotting support beam. 10:03 p.m. Evelyn appeared. Immaculate as always, pearls, tailored slacks. No Jesse. Where is he? I demanded. Safe. With my lawyer. Her voice was arctic. Once I verify the ledger's authenticity. She pulled out the repaired dinosaur, Jesse's favorite. He misses this. Sign the real ledger over, Danielle, and you can return it to him. Tonight. Psychological warfare. Using a child's love as a weapon. I slid the fake ledger across the concrete floor. It's all there. Every dollar Robert stole. Every soul he bought. Evelyn flipped pages, her face lit by a small flashlight. She paused at the $500,000 entry bearing her initials. This is a copy. The original burned with Jonathan's USB, I lied. This is all that's left. She snapped the ledger shut. Then our business is done. My lawyer will contact you about visitation rights for Jesse. Supervised, of course. Given your instability. She turned to leave. You knew, didn't you? I said softly. About Robert and Claire. Evelyn froze. Don't. You slept beside him. Balanced his books. Did you smell Claire's shampoo on his collar? See the guilt in his eyes? Silence. She whirled, eyes blazing. That girl was trash. She seduced him. Corrupted my Jonathan. Jonathan was born corrupt, Evelyn. Just like Robert. And you? I stepped closer. You're the architect. You managed the lies. Paid the bribes. Repaired the toys of the child your husband raped. Her hand lashed out. The slap cracked like gunfire. I protected my family. I tasted blood. Smiled. Did you protect them from this? I pressed play on a second phone hidden in my pocket. Transfer all rights to the funds herein to Evelyn Montgomery. This is a copy. You knew, didn't you? About Robert and Claire. That girl was trash. She seduced him. Slap. I protected my family. Evelyn paled. What is this? Live stream, I said. To 27,000 followers on the Houston Chronicle's investigative page. Hi, everyone. Meet Evelyn Montgomery. Robert's bookkeeper. Jonathan's handler. Claire's tormentor. Her scream was primal. She lunged for the phone. The basement doors crashed open. Detective Ruiz. SWAT. Claire. And CPS, holding Jesse's hand. Mommy! Jesse broke free, sprinting to Claire. Ruiz held up his phone, displaying the live stream. Evelyn Montgomery. You're under arrest for conspiracy, accessory to sexual assault of a minor, and financial fraud. She set me up. Evelyn shrieked, pointing at me. She forged that recording. No need, Ruiz said coldly. We found Robert's actual offshore accounts. Traced transfers to your Cayman Islands LLC. We've had Claire's journal for 48 hours. And Jesse? He nodded to the boy, clinging to Claire. He told us everything. How Grandma Evelyn gave him back his dinosaur after Uncle Jonathan hurt his mom. Evelyn collapsed. Pearls scattered across the blood-stained concrete. As cuffs clicked onto her wrists, I walked to Jesse. Kneeled. Handed him the dinosaur. It's over, I whispered. He hugged me. Thank you, Aunt Danny. 6 months later, Houston courthouse. The Montgomery family sat in chains. Jonathan, charged with kidnapping, attempted murder, witness intimidation. Evelyn, charged with fraud, conspiracy, accessory to sexual assault. Alex, plea deal for testifying against Jonathan. Claire and I testified. We showed the jury Claire's journal entries. The ledger, now entered as evidence. The recording of Evelyn's confession. Jonathan's threatening texts. His defense crumbled. The verdict. Jonathan, guilty on all counts. 55 years without parole. Evelyn, guilty on all counts. 25 years. Robert's estate, forfeited. $2.2 million awarded to Claire and Jesse for lifelong therapy and security. Jonathan lunged at me as they led him away. This isn't over. I'll find you. The judge slammed her gavel. Add 10 years for that outburst. I didn't flinch. Dead men don't keep promises. 1 year later, Galveston, Texas. Salt air. Seagulls. The crash of waves on sand. Claire's cottage stood bright blue against the dunes. Jesse chased crabs at the waterline, his laughter carried by the wind. Inside, Claire poured sweet tea. He still has nightmares. But he's safe. That's what matters. She'd use the settlement money to start fresh, new names. New home. Private tutors. Jonathan would never find them. And you? She asked. Ruiz said you turned down the book deals. I watched Jesse build a sandcastle. My revenge wasn't for profit. It was for silence. I'd done what I set out to do. Exposed every lie. Shattered every abuser. Freed every victim. Claire touched my hand. Stay. Jesse needs you. I need you. I shook my head. My work's not done. I drove north that afternoon. Not back to Houston's ghosts. To Austin. I walked into a modest storefront. Carter Consulting, Digital Forensics and Truth Recovery. My receptionist smiled. Your 3 p.m. is here. A pastor's wife. Says her husband's hiding everything. I straightened my blazer. Glanced at the framed quote on my wall. First they ignore you. Then they lie about you. Then they fight you. Then you win. Danielle Carter. Send her in, I said. The woman entered. Mid-40s. Eyes hollow with the same fear I'd once carried. He says I'm crazy, she whispered. That I imagine the texts. The late nights. I slid a contract across my desk. The truth doesn't imagine. It is. Let's find yours. As she signed her name, I looked out my window. Sunset blazed over the city, a wildfire of orange and gold. Jonathan was in a concrete cage. Evelyn was in a prison infirmary, diabetes gone untreated in her arrogance. Robert was in a pauper's grave. And I? I was here. Alive. Unbroken. Using the weapons they'd forged against me to arm other women. The scared girl who'd begged God in the dark was gone. In her place stood a woman who'd become her own answer. I picked up my new business card. Embossed letters gleamed. Danielle Carter. Truth Architect. Revenge isn't violence, it's relentless truth. Danielle didn't wield a gun, she wielded evidence, strategy, and the law. What lie have you been swallowing, and when will you let the truth set you free instead of quiet? Thank you for spending your time with my story. Feel free to share your thoughts or reactions in the comments, I'd love to hear from you.